Welcome to Everyday Enlightenment. I'm your host, Patty Teal. My guest today is HeatherAsh Amara. HeatherAsh is the author of the best-selling book Warrior Goddess Training, the Warrior Goddess Training Companion book, The Toltec Path of Transformation, and the upcoming Warrior Goddess Way. She's dedicated to inspiring depth, creativity, and joy by sharing the most potent tools from a variety of world traditions. HeatherAsh studied and taught extensively with Don Miguel Ruiz, author of The Four Agreements, and continues to teach with the Ruiz family. Raised in Southeast Asia, HeatherAsh has traveled the world from childhood and is continually inspired by the diversity and beauty of human expression and experience. She brings this open-hearted, inclusive worldview to her writings and teachings, which are a rich blend of Toltec wisdom, European shamanism, Buddhism, and Native American ceremony. Now mark your calendars because HeatherAsh will be leading a retreat at Sedona Mago Retreat Center for Spiritual Awakening, September 23rd through the 25th. The retreat is called Warrior Goddess Wisdom Weekend. It's for women only and focuses on the element of fire. Welcome, HeatherAsh.
Thanks so much, Patty. It's great to be on the show with you.
Oh, I've been so excited to talk to you.
Same here.
So is a lot of the upcoming workshop or retreat at Sedona Mago Retreat, will that be based on your last book?
Yes, it's based in the teachings of Warrior Goddess Training. And a lot of the work that we do is around releasing the old, what I think of as heavy baggage that we carry with us from the past, learning how to put it down, to create more spaciousness in our body, and to get quiet, to learn how to listen to ourselves at a much deeper level. And Sedona Mago is such a perfect place to do that.
Ah, yes, it is. And that's so very important, too. As I was reading through Warrior Goddess Training, I noticed you talked about cyclical living. And I really was interested in that. You mentioned that you can't control life and that idea is an illusion. Could you explain that a little further?
Absolutely. We've been really trained more to live in a linear fashion. And a linear fashion is that there's a belief that there's a beginning, there's a middle, and that there's an end. And if you follow the correct steps and you do it right, then the outcome will be what you want. And that actually creates a lot of suffering. While it's helpful to have linear living in particular areas of our life where we need to do step-by-step things, life is not linear. Life is circular. And we can see that reflected in the seasons, in the moon cycles, and in our own lives, that there's always beginnings and endings, and often they happen simultaneously. And that as we step into circular living, what we're stepping into is honoring all the aspects of life, that we learn to love the endings as much as we love the beginnings, that we learn to get more fluid with letting go as we do with stepping towards the new, and that each of the seasons, the different seasons of spring, summer, fall, and winter, teach us about different aspects of ourselves. That there's times when it's a time to plant seeds and to nurture something that's growing. And there's times to harvest and to celebrate the abundance. And there's also times when the harvest is slowing down, when the leaves are falling off the trees, of letting things die. And also times of being in the stillness and the unknown before there's even a seed planted, where we let ourselves just rest before creation begins again.
Yeah, Mother Nature can be a great teacher that way. And I think that knowing about this is very comforting, because I think sometimes we tend to say, but I thought I did everything right. You know, I did step A, I did step B, but then look what happened. There was a disaster. And there are some things that we just simply have to go with the flow with.
Yeah, and like you said, we hope that we can control our environment. Mm-hmm. There's no way that we're able to do that. The life flows and things unexpected happen. And when we try to attach to what we think should be happening, then we suffer. When we recognize the only thing we can control is how we're perceiving the world, how we're in relationship to the world, then our focus comes back to ourselves. Rather than this shouldn't be happening outside of me, we come back to how do I want to be in relationship with this? whatever's happening. And it creates so much more peace and ease inside of our beings. It's not always easy.
Right.
But it's possible.
Yes. I think for me personally, and maybe it's the same with everyone, non-attachment has certainly been a huge lesson that I think I've learned, and then there'll be a deeper layer of it. So I love that you said in the book that you have, forgive me if I misquote you slightly, but you're to be 100% clear on what you want, while at the same time 100% at peace with the outcome of a situation. That would be a wonderful place to be.
Yes, to be able to hold both simultaneously, of that 100%, I'm in, I'm going to put my energy towards it, I'm excited, and I release what it's going to look like. I release the outcome and stay present with how it unfolds, which may look really differently than we think it's going to. But that then allows us to really show up for ourselves, both in the commitment and in the surrender, that we learn to do both of them simultaneously.
Yes, it is such an art, really. I have a friend who is able to pray for things, and she can be very specific, but she just does it with all her heart, and then she knows she's put it out there and it's gone. I, however, tend to go, oh, please, I want this, please, I want this, please, I want this. And it's not such a good way to be. If you can do it and let go. So mine tend to be more general, may the best thing happen, that kind of a thing. What's your feeling on that?
I think it's good for us to do both, actually, because what we get to see inside of ourselves when there's something we really want, the power of stating exactly what that is really powerful. And I think that's really true for women as well, of the feeling into what is it I'm craving, what do I need, what do I want more of in my life, and being clear about what that is. At the same time, knowing that we can't control it, that we get to surrender it up. And so I feel like it's a skill set that as we practice it more becomes easier, and that we can do. Definitely, I also will have times when I'll do the general, like, may whatever unfolds be for the highest good for everyone involved and myself.
Right.
And that also feels really beautiful, and I think is important as well for us to get to that level of just trust.
Right.
But so I really support people to do both.
Yeah.
To do those, yay, general, I open to everything unfolding as it will, and to also practice what do you really want? Ask for it.
Right. Yeah. Would you say surrender and acceptance are two words for the same thing?
Yes, I would. And that I see both of them, surrender and acceptance, as very active states. So sometimes people think of the definition of those words as a passive, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to get what I want. And there's this kind of fatality of hopelessness that sometimes can get connected to that. And what I've found is that true surrender and acceptance is an incredibly rich, powerful, active state to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe some people confuse the word surrender with giving up, and it's not.
Yes.
It's not that, right?
Yeah, definitely not that.
Yes. No. So you studied with Don Miguel Ruiz, and at one point he was your teacher, and I know in the preface of your book he now considers you peers. How has that experience been for you?
It's been such a beautiful relationship. I've known Miguel for over 20 years now, and to look back at where I was when I met him, how young I was, how much I was searching, how incomplete I felt, and just to see the whole arc of my relationship with him, of being a student for so many years and then basically getting kicked out of the nest. And he really encouraged us to go out and create your own dream, and struggling with that a bit, like, no, I don't want to go out. And then really embracing it, like, yes, I need to take everything that I've learned from him and digest it and integrate it. So it took many years to do that. And, I remember the first time I saw Miguel after I'd been seeing him for many, many years, and feeling the incredible shift that had happened inside of me, that I was able to meet him as an equal and really look into his eyes and just feel complete unconditional love. Whereas before I would look in his eyes and I'd be like, oh my God, he sees right through me. Oh, I'm scared.
That's
to
beautiful.
just really feel like I had learned to love myself.
Yes.
And that it was his deep unconditional love of me that allowed me to find that inside of myself.
Right. You know, I met you ever so briefly, and I know you probably don't remember me, but I was just briefly introduced to a whole table of people, and you were one of them. But you have a spark in your eyes that you can see, and you see it with people that have that unconditional love that you have. So I think that you have that for everybody now, it seems to me, when I looked at you and saw that joy and light in your eyes.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
I love humans so much. And I recently just had someone say to me, I just feel like you can look right through me and you just see all my faults and all my fears. And I'm like, sweet, I don't see any of those. I just see you. And it's so true that, you know, we're so often afraid that people are judging us for the way we judge ourselves. Mm-hmm. We expect people are going to see the worst of us. And it's such a joy to see the best of everyone, to see their light.
Yeah, it must be very fulfilling to make a change in so many women's lives.
It makes me cry, honestly. I just feel so blessed and honored to get to share what I've learned, what my teachers and my mentors and my friends have shared with me, and be able to pass on what I've integrated, what I found works. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm really practical, mm-hmm. So I love giving people the biggest picture view and then going, okay, so now how are we going to bring these teachings into our lives and physically make the changes that we've been thinking about? So it's a great honor to be able to offer tools and support and guidance for people to come back to themselves, mm-hmm. to remember who they really are.
Right. And your teaching seems to be very inclusive. I know I mentioned a colleague of mine who is in her 20s, but I'm old enough to be her mother, certainly, and I think it would also be very useful for me. So it seems this is something for all ages. Rich, poor, doesn't matter. It seems like it could help anyone.
Yeah, that was definitely my intent with this book, is that it was for women wherever they were in their process. Mm-hmm. So I've talked to women who have never read anything, any type of self-help or growth or spiritual book, and they read Warrior Goddess Training and wake up and realize, oh, there is something else. I've also talked with many people that have done years of spiritual work, and yet something was missing. And because the tools in Warrior Goddess Training and all the work that I do are so practical, mm-hmm. they really align with wherever anybody is at in the cycle of transformation.
Yeah, that's wonderful. If you've just tuned in, my guest today is HeatherAsh Amara, best-selling author and founder of the Toltec Center of Creative Intent. HeatherAsh will be leading a retreat at Sedona Mago Retreat Center for Spiritual Awakening, September 23rd through the 25th. The retreat is called Warrior Goddess Wisdom Training. It's for women only, and it focuses on the element of fire. Now, I don't know too much about what that element of fire brings to us. Could you address that a little bit, HeatherAsh?
Yeah, each of the workshops I'm doing has an elemental theme. And the element of fire is about creativity, it's about passion, it's about our inner light. And we'll be doing specifically work around how to be in relationship with our energetic body, how to not leak energy, how to get full, and also how to kindle our own inner power so that we feel grounded and bright and full in our lives. And so many women that I work with are in a place in their lives where we can say, burn the candle at both ends, where they feel drained, or they're not sure what their purpose is or what their passion, or there's been a big change in their lives and they're not sure where to land. And so we'll be doing lots of different exercises and working with the land and with each other to create a new container so that we can rekindle our fire and learn how to bring more energy into our being, how to hold that energy, and then how to direct that energy. And I think of those are our three ways that we're in relationship with our fire.
Oh, that's so very interesting. And some signs that your fire is not where it should be, or that it's being burned from both ends, might be you're tired, you're unhappy, depressed. Would those be signs that you need to ignite that fire energy?
Yeah, exactly. Or busy and overwhelmed, all of those things where there's a sense that we're out of balance.
Right.
Yeah, and I think about it that our fire, the fire inside of us, we can either deplete it with our actions and our thoughts, or we can feed it with our actions and our thoughts. So we'll be exploring for each of us individually, what is it that dampens our fire, both the way we think, the way we act, the way we emotionally react to things, as well as what feeds our fire.
Yeah. Now, you also talked in your book a little bit about rewriting your story and the power of words. So I know that is very important, how we say things, how we put them out there. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the power of our word is so important, especially with how we talk to ourselves. So for most of us, we have the tendency to have what I call disaster mind, where we're looking at the past, at things that have gone wrong and trying to avoid those things, or judging ourselves for our mistakes. Or we're looking at the future of what might go wrong, or holding fear. And so our mind tends to cycle around fear and scarcity and not enoughness, and that we compare and judge ourselves to other people or where we think we should be at this time in our lives. And so a lot of the work that I'm so passionate about doing is helping people to become more impeccable with the way that they speak to themselves, what language they use, and that we really learn to shift our relationship and all of our relationships from our head down to our heart, so that we're listening from that place of compassion, openness, gentleness, clarity, so that our decisions come from that openness of faith and love, rather than the fear that the mind can sometimes generate. And that we always start with our relationship with ourselves, to really explore where are the places that I've put everyone else first, which is so common for women especially, and to rewire that so that we come into intimate relationship with ourselves. And what I found is that from that intimate self-relationship, then we can be truly in service from a full place towards others.
Oh, that's beautiful. You know, that disaster mind can kind of ring a bell with me, because I caught myself the other day. Something was going really well, but instead of just absolutely treasuring that things were going well, I was like, oh, but I wonder how long this will last, kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I caught myself doing it, and I thought, things are going well. Enjoy the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so many important points that you talk about and teach. There was something I'm not sure I understood completely, the big myth and the little myth. Could you explain that?
Yes. So one of the last chapters in the book is called Choose Your Path. And it's about being the artist of your life and really beginning to look at everything in your life as part of your creation and your art. So this idea of little myth and big myth is something that I came up with to give our lives context. And so your big myth is something that you make up, and it's your most creative story that you make up. And it doesn't have to be real at all. And in fact, I really encourage people to be super creative. And it's about, what are you here for on the planet? How did you get here, and what are you here for? So you make up a myth that you're the heroine, and that myth can be as fantastical as you want. So, I've had people that have made up myths of, I was a mermaid and now I'm a human in order to bring the love of water and the ocean to other humans.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, fun, exactly. And that's the feeling sense. It should be like, ooh, this is fun. I like this. So it's a myth. So what's your myth? You create up your own myth of where you came from, your own creation myth, where you came from and what you're here for. And then the second little myth is about what are you doing right now? What's your focus? And I think that the little myth is, what do you want to put your attention towards over the next 3 months? So that's usually a word or a place to focus. And I encourage people not to use what you would normally use. So you want to use something that you want to stretch yourself into. So it may be that your little myth is that you are a athlete. So maybe you are wanting to exercise more. And you can say, okay, my little myth is I want to put my focus towards being an athlete. And you might not even know exactly what that means. What does an athlete mean? But that then gives you a container, kind of a window to look out of. So you look at your life in a different way. You make different choices. Mm-hmm. When I first played with this with myself, for example, I was just starting to write books. And I took on the little myth of being a writer. Even though I wasn't a writer, I wanted to be a writer, but I wasn't a writer. But what I found is that by holding that little myth of I am a writer, that I started to act like a writer more.
Right. Observing things more. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a wonderful way to give ourselves focus and to help ourselves, because any choice you make it against your little myth, whatever that focus happens to be.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. That could really move things along, I think, in a direction that you want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And many of the workshops and the books you do, I love the fact that you are using both warrior and goddess in the same sentence. It seems at first as though they are so very different, and yet after reading your book, I understand they really do go together.
They really do. And the warrior part is our focus, our clarity, our commitment, and our drive. And the goddess is about the creative, playful, opening, exploratory energy. And we really need both of them. They go together beautifully. And I like to remind people that warrior goddess training isn't about, okay, I need to be 50% warrior and 50% goddess, and then I'll have become a warrior goddess.
Oh.
That it's really about what's your natural essence. So for some of us, we're much more warrior-oriented and a little bit goddess, and some of us are much more goddess-oriented and a little bit warrior. Mm-hmm. So it's really first honoring what's true of your expression. How do you express? And what are the shells or what are the places that you've taken on particular energies that aren't really who you are, but you're using it as a way to maybe protect yourself or to fit in, and how to let those old shells go. And that also, we also get more skillful at using both of them where they're needed. Because there's particular times in our lives where we really need warrior energy. That's what's called for. And how do we call that up in our being and use it and then let it go? And same thing with the goddess energy. There's particular times in our life where what's needed is the goddess. That super creative, open, loving energy that we can pull that in as well. So we become very skillful with these flavors of energies.
That is so true. I remember there was a time when my husband was very ill, not expected to live, and thankfully he did. I felt like I was a warrior at the hospital, battling, going into battle for him every single day. Yes. So I had to become a warrior there for a while.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so important in particular areas that we're able to call that up.
Right. So you have a new book coming out. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm about to finish the final edit of the manuscript. It's called Warrior Goddess Way, and it's the third book in the Warrior Goddess trilogy. So the second book's the companion book. And Warrior Goddess Way goes a lot deeper. So what I did is I took a lot of the questions that I received from people that had read Warrior Goddess training, and then wrote a book based on where are the places women tend to get stuck or need the most support. And so Warrior Goddess Way takes a deeper dive into things like forgiveness, relationships, how to be in relationship with death, how to forgive, how to apologize in a good way. So there's a lot of deep, really, again, practical, how do we take particular areas of our life and transform them in such a way that they work with us.
That's wonderful. And it's great that you could use the practical experience that you've gained from these other workshops and find out what people have questions or trouble about and then address those. That's really great. Is it important to read these books in any certain order or not?
It's not, actually. The Warrior Goddess Way is going to be a standalone book, so people can read that one first if they feel drawn to it. There is some, I'd say there's some benefit from reading them in a row, just because Warrior Goddess Training is more a foundational book. Mm-hmm. The companion book then goes deeper into each of those 10 lessons. And the truth is they're all standalone books. So wherever you feel called, I would say just jump in there, because they all are supportive of each other.
That's great. And now you're calling it a trilogy. Are you sure there's not going to be a fourth one, or do you just you just have a feeling that it's done after this?
I do. We shall see. Everything can change. But I have 3 other books in the works right now that are not Warrior Goddess.
Oh.
So, yes, some really exciting projects coming up, plus a dissertation. So I have my next probably 3 years planned out with other books, and then we'll see.
Well, you're going with the flow of what life brings you, and that's what you're teaching. Yeah, that is wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very fun. I love it.
Yeah. Well, again, I want to remind our listeners that September 23rd to the 25th, you're going to be at Sedona Mago Retreat putting on this training, and we're all just so looking forward to you being there. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, HeatherAsh. I really have enjoyed it. And for all women, I want to thank you for all that you've done. I can tell it really comes from your heart.
Thank you so much, Patty, and many blessings to everyone that's listening to your show. And thank you to you for hosting this show and sharing so many beautiful voices out in the world, and for your gifts as well.
You are so very welcome. Bye now.
Bye-bye.